Hi, welcome back with Cooking with Steffi. We are on episode 3 of our 4 series, teaching you how to make different cupcake flavors. I am doing 2 different cupcakes right now this time, and both recipes will be in the description box. I've already mixed up this yellow batter because the steps to making this is in episode 1, and all I wanted you to do is make half of, well, I'll put the recipe in there, but actually pay attention to the steps that I show in episode 1 using the recipe that I put in the description box. And the only difference is we're changing the flavor. We're gonna make this a banana flavor because we're gonna make banana pudding cupcakes. So I'm adding banana flavoring, and I'm just gonna add about a teaspoon on top of everything else that we would normally do for a yellow cake. Add a teaspoon of banana flavoring. Okay? And so then I will mix in that, and that becomes my banana cupcake. So I'm gonna put this to the side because I'm gonna pour them in our cupcake holders in a little bit. I'm gonna actually push this to the side. Tion, actually, can you give me another spatula because I'm gonna need it for Red Velvet. I got helpers, y'all. So now we're moving into my famous, and I must love you guys because I am giving up my recipe to, yeah, that's fine, to my Red Velvet Cupcake. Thank you so much. My husband is in love with this recipe. When I first figured out the perfect key to it, he couldn't stop eating it. So I had to make sure I wrote down everything exactly the way I did it. You know, I gotta play with it. Like I said, I love science, so playing with these recipes is what I do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to put in 1 egg. 1 egg in my dough. I don't know if you notice, but in my recipes I always say I don't. And I also say I like to put all liquids together. This cake is gonna be kind of different because I'm gonna have liquids at the beginning, some dry ingredients, and then liquids at the end. Okay, then I'm gonna put in 3/4 cups of vegetable oil. I'm gonna put in a cup of sugar. You guys, I am reading my ingredients because I write everything down and I have so many ingredients in my head. I actually level everything off to make sure we don't put too much of something in. And we are making cupcakes. This recipe right here will make 24 Red Velvet Cupcakes. Okay, and I really haven't figured out a science to make less than that. I'm sorry. But it will make 24 cupcakes. That's the minimum I can make out of this. I'm going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of my vanilla. And then I'm going to start adding, no, actually I'm going to add 1/2 cup of sour cream. I'm trying to figure out what consistency we want it to be at. I'm going to add my sour cream. Hold on, 1/4, not a 1/2 cup. When I'm doing the full cake, I do 1/2. So that's what's in my head, making a full cake. So we're gonna do 1/4 cup of sour cream. So I'm gonna stop right there, and I'm gonna start mixing. Then I'm gonna start adding the dry ingredients. So what I'm doing is I'm getting a consistency of fluffiness so that my wet and dry will blend together perfectly. On stir, and I'll mix those ingredients together. Turn it to 2 so it can all come together nice and even. Now I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, not baking powder, baking soda, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Then I'm going to add 1 1/4 cup of flour. This is 1/4. And this is 1 cup. Just gonna level that off. And 1/4 cocoa powder. So I don't know if you paid attention, but in my recipe for chocolate cupcakes, I use dark chocolate cocoa. With my recipe for red velvet, I use regular cocoa powder, regular unsweetened cocoa powder. So I'm gonna use 1/4 of that. I still level it off whether I'm using a knife or not. Okay, so here's the tricky part. I like powdered buttermilk, but you can use regular buttermilk. Sometimes I make my own buttermilk by turning the milk rancid or sour. I add like lemon juice to it. Me personally, I like this dry buttermilk. It gives it a certain taste. It's a lot better than the rancid one. So it needs, if you're using liquid buttermilk, you're going to need 1/2 cup of buttermilk. If you're using powdered buttermilk, you're going to need 2 tablespoons plus 1/2 cup of water. So I put the 2 tablespoons in. And what I'm doing is tapping to level off. 2 tablespoons. And then I'm going to hold off on putting the water. I'm going to put that in a minute. Make sure I've got everything. I did the vanilla. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to mix my dry ingredients in. And as my dry is mixing in with my wet, I'm going to slowly add the water. 1/2 cup of water. Then I'm going to cut it off, and I'm going to take my spatula and I'm going to scrape it down so that everything gets incorporated properly. You don't want some to have flavor or leave some sugar left out at the bottom. I'm just going to start mixing again, but this time when I start mixing, I'm actually going to add a 1 fluid ounce of red food coloring and a 1/2 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Turn it down to stir so it doesn't splatter. The more red it is, if you want it to be more red, you can use 2 bottles. I only used 1. My flavor seems to be beautiful with that 1. If I was doing a cake, I would do 2. And then here comes the science. Remember that baking soda we added earlier? It's going to activate with this yummy apple cider vinegar, and it's going to turn into something delicious. This is a good old-fashioned Southern treat. One of my popular flavors. And I'm going to show you what it looks like in just a second. Okay, I stopped it. Okay, so here we go. This is our red velvet batter. If you want it more red, you can add more food coloring to it. If you do add more food coloring, if you add 1 more bottle, you'll also have to add another, you'll have to do a full tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, because that's what helps with its color. Just like with Easter eggs, we add vinegar to Easter eggs to brighten up our color. That's what this does. Okay, So as I said before, you have two options. We can pour it into a mixing bowl or our silicone. Uh-oh, where's my helper? I don't see my silicone container. As I'm pouring this one, when he brings me the silicone one, then I'll put the banana cupcakes in that one. I'm sorry, y'all. Now he's giving me a look. Thank you. Let me get the banana. Pour that in here. So I got my last of my 2 cupcakes. And if you didn't catch any of the series, for me, I say fill it up 3/4. Not all the way, just 3/4 of the way, because it will actually it'll rise, it'll get bigger as it's baking. So you don't want to, you don't want to fill it up too much. Actually, the banana pudding cupcake is a filled cupcake, so if we fill it halfway, we're still doing good because we're going to cut some of it out anyway. It's going to be a filled cupcake. Now our banana pudding cupcake recipe, it's only going to make a dozen cupcakes, that recipe I give you. It's a much richer batter, so it doesn't make as much and it uses a lot of ingredients. The 2 last cupcakes that I've given you use a lot of ingredients in them. Go. 3/4 of the way. And this red, it will mess up your clothes. So if you're baking with your kids, make sure they're wearing gloves and protective gear, or you need to do the pouring and putting the red portion in because it will stain. There we go. So these are our 4 cupcakes that we're going to be making. The next video, clean off my area, don't want a big mess. The next video we're going to be making icings, 3 different types of icings. A cream cheese icing, a buttercream icing, and a sour cream icing. So I can't wait to see you guys again. Bye-bye.